The meeting room was bigger than anything Tame and Kim had ever seen. The walls curved upward like the inside of a giant egg, made from some kind of smooth white material that seemed to glow with its own light. Tables and chairs floated in the night air without any visible support, ranged in a perfect circle around a crystal structure that pulsed with soft blue energy. Ambassador Kim adjusted his dark suit and tried to look calm. This was the most important day in human history. After 3 years of careful communication through radio signals, the Galactic Federation had finally agreed to meet with representatives from Earth. The location was neutral space, aboard a massive diplomatic vessel called Harmony's Edge. Dr. Soyoung Park sat beside him, take her tablet computer, looking primitive compared to the floating holographic displays that surrounded them. She had spent months preparing for this moment, studying every piece of information the aliens had shared about their civilization. Her job was to help the aliens understand human culture and biology. Remember, she whispered to Kim, we represent all of humanity today. Whatever happens here will decide our future in the galaxy. Kim nodded. He had been chosen as Earth's ambassador because of his skill with languages and his calm personality. But nothing could have prepared him for this moment. The first aliens to enter the room were tall and graceful, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer like water. They moved like dancers, their long limbs flowing in perfect harmony. Their eyes were large and silver, and they wore robes that changed colors as they walked. These were the Velhari, one of the oldest species in the Federation. Behind them came creatures that looked like giant insects, but walking upright on 2 legs. Their bodies were covered in hard plates that clicked together as they moved. Multiple eyes dotted their triangular heads, and their mouths were filled with sharp teeth. The translator device on the table identified them as Krillian. More aliens followed. Some looked like plants with moving roots for legs. Others seemed to be made of living crystal. A few appeared to be clouds of gas held together by glowing energy fields. Each species was stranger than the last dot. Kim counted 12 different types of aliens as they took their seats around the circle. The floating chairs adjusted automatically to fit each species' unique body shape. The humans were the only ones who looked even remotely familiar to each other. The leader of the Velhar delegation stood up. Her movements were so smooth that she seemed to be floating. When she spoke, her voice was like music, but the translator turned her words into clear English. I am Council Member Vethera, speaking for the Galactic Federation. We welcome the representatives of Earth to this historic meeting. Kim stood up and bowed slightly. Thank you, Council Member. I am Ambassador Tame and Kim, representing the United Nations of Earth. With me is Dr. Soyoung Park, our chief xenobiologist. We are honored to meet with you. Vethara's expression changed. Her silver eyes seemed to grow darker. Before we begin formal discussions, there is a matter of great concern that must be addressed. She waved her hand, and a holographic display appeared above the crystal table. It showed a planet that Kim recognized immediately, Earth with its blue oceans and white clouds. But something was wrong. Red warning symbols flashed all around the image. Your world has been classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, Vethara announced. This is the most dangerous category in our system. A wave of movement went through the alien delegates. Several of them actually pushed their chairs away from the humans. The Krillian ambassador began making rapid clicking sounds that the translator rendered as expressions of alarm. Dr. Park looked confused. I'm sorry, but what exactly is a death world? Another alien stood up. This one looked like a tree with arms and a face carved into its bark. A death world is a planet where the environmental conditions are so extreme that most sapient life cannot survive. Your world shows gravitational forces that would crush our bones. Your atmospheric pressure would burst our organs. Your weather patterns include storms that could destroy our cities. The plant-like alien continued, its voice deep and creaking. Your oceans contain predatory creatures larger than our spacecraft. Your land masses shift and shake without warning. Your star's radiation levels fluctuate in ways that would kill most species within hours. Kim felt his heart racing. This was not how he had expected the meeting to begin. But humans live there just fine. We've built a civilization there. That is precisely what concerns us, said Vethera. Any species that can survive in such conditions must be extraordinarily dangerous. We have protocols for dealing with Deathworld. Species, the Krillian ambassador spoke up, its voice coming out as a series of buzzes and clicks. In our history, we have encountered only 3 Deathworld species. 2 of them tried to conquer the galaxy. The third destroyed itself in nuclear war. Dr. Park stood up quickly. Wait, please. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Humans aren't dangerous to other species. We're explorers, scientists, artists. We came here seeking friendship and knowledge. Words, said another alien. This one looking like a jellyfish floating in a bubble of water. The Vorthok also spoke of peace before they began their campaign of conquest. Their homeworld was only a Class 8 Deathworld. Yours is far worse. The mood in the room was turning hostile. Kim could see some of the aliens reaching for devices that might be weapons. Others were speaking rapidly in their own languages, and the translator was having trouble keeping up. Perhaps, said Vethera, it would be best if we established a quarantine zone around your solar system for the safety of all species in the galaxy. No, Dr. Park said firmly. You're making a mistake. Yes, Earth is a challenging world, but that doesn't make humans dangerous. It makes us something else entirely. She activated her tablet and projected her own holographic display. Give me a chance to explain. Let me show you what humans are really like. What our world has made us. The room fell silent. The aliens looked at each other with uncertainty. Finally, Vethera spoke. Very well, Dr. Park. You have one opportunity to convince us that humanity deserves a place in the galactic community. But understand this, if you cannot prove that your species is safe, we will have no choice but to restrict contact with your world. Kim felt sweat running down his back despite the cool temperature in the room. The future of humanity hung in the balance. Everything depended on what Dr. Park said next. Thank you, Dr. Park said calmly. I promise you, by the time I'm finished, you'll understand that being from a death world isn't a curse. It's a gift, and it's exactly what the galaxy needs. The aliens waited, their strange eyes fixed on the small human woman who held the fate of her entire species in her hands. Dr. So-Young Park looked around the circle of alien faces, each one showing fear or suspicion. She took a deep breath and began her presentation with a simple question. Before I explain about humans, could you tell me about your homeworlds? Right? Are they like? The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. Finally, Vethera spoke first. Our world, Velhari Prime, is a paradise. The gravity is 0.6 of what you call standard. Our temperature stays at exactly 22 degrees across the entire planet. Rain falls gently every third day at the same time. Our largest animals are peaceful creatures that eat only plants. Dr. Park nodded and made notes on her tablet. And what about physical activity? What do your people do for exercise? Exercise. Vethera looked confused. We do not understand this word. It's physical training to make your body stronger, Dr. Park explained. Why would we need to make our bodies stronger? Asked the Velhari leader. Our world provides everything we need. Look, there is no struggle, no challenge to overcome. The Krillian ambassador buzzed loudly. On our world, we have gentle work. We build our cities from soft materials that did not require much effort to move. Our days are peaceful. We have no need for what you call exercise. Dr. Park turned to the other aliens. Each one described a similar world. Perfect temperatures, gentle weather, peaceful animals, and easy living. No storms, no disasters, no danger. Now, let me tell you about a typical day for a human, Dr. Park said. She activated her tablet and showed a holographic image of a human city. It's Seoul, one of our major cities. It has 10 million people living in it. The aliens stared at the image. The buildings reached high into the sky, much taller than anything on their worlds. Vehicles moved quickly through the streets. People walked everywhere, carrying heavy bags and moving with purpose. The gravity on our world is 1.0 standard, Dr. Park explained. This means that every step we take requires more effort than anything you do in your daily lives. Just standing up is harder work than most of you do all day. She showed another image of a human construction site. Workers were lifting heavy metal beams and moving massive blocks of stone. We build our cities from materials that would be impossible for your species to move. What you see as superhuman strength is just normal work for us. The plant-like alien creaked nervously. But surely your people use machines for such work. We do use machines, Dr. Park said, but humans also do much of the work ourselves. Our bodies are strong enough to handle it. She changed the image to show a human gymnasium. People were running on machines, lifting heavy weights, and doing exercises that made the aliens gasp in shock. These people are doing this for fun, Dr. Park explained. They are making their bodies even stronger than they need to be. The weights they lift would crush most of your bones. Hansol Lee, the military attach, stood up. He was a tall man, with broad shoulders and a confident smile. Would you like me to demonstrate? The aliens looked terrified, but Dr. Park nodded. Hansol here represents our military. Till he's also just a normal human adult. Hansol walked to the center of the room. Every morning, I run 5 kilometers to stay in shape. It's about the distance from here to the edge of this ship. You run that distance every day? Asked the jellyfish-like alien in disbelief. Just for basic fitness, Hansol replied. When I was training for the military, I would run 20 kilometers with a heavy pack on my back. He picked up one of the alien chairs, which was made of the same floating material as the tables. To the alien's amazement, he lifted it easily over his head with one hand. This chair weighs about 50 kilograms, he said casually. A human child could lift this. Several aliens made sounds of distress. The Krillian ambassadors, clicking, became so rapid that the translator couldn't keep up. Dr. Park showed more images. Humans swimming in rough oceans, climbing steep mountains, and working in extreme heat and cold. Our world forces us to be strong. The gravity alone means that our bones are 3 times denser than yours. Our muscles are like organic machines. She showed a video of human children playing in a park. They were running, jumping, and climbing on equipment that looked like torture devices to the aliens. These are our young ones, Dr. Park explained. They play games that would kill most adult members of your species. They do this for enjoyment. The room was completely silent. The aliens stared at the images with growing understanding and horror. But this is not the most important thing, Dr. Park continued. The real question is, what happens when humans operate in normal galactic conditions? She gestured to Hansol. Would you mind showing them what you can do in reduced gravity? The ship's computer adjusted the gravity in a small section of the room, 2.7 standard, normal for most galactic species. Hansol stepped into the zone and immediately began to move differently. His normal walk became a series of graceful bounds. Each step carried him twice as far as it should have. When he tried a simple hop, he soared 3 meters into the air, landing softly despite the height. In your standard environment, Dr. Park explained. Humans don't just survive. We become something beyond what you thought possible. Salt demonstrated a normal military exercise, push-ups. In the reduced gravity, he moved so fast that his body became a blur. What would have been difficult work on Earth looked effortless. Our bones won't break under stress that would shatter yours, Dr. Park said. Our hearts can pump blood efficiently. Even in thin air, our muscles can work for hours without tiring. She showed medical scans comparing human and alien physiology. Your species evolved in paradise. You're perfectly adapted to perfect conditions. But humans, evolved in hell, were built to handle anything. The Villani leader finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. In our standard conditions, you would be ... superhuman, ... not superhuman, Dr. Park corrected. Just human. Teased. This is what our world made us. Strong enough to survive anywhere, tough enough to handle any challenge. She looked around the room at the stunned faces. Do you understand? We're not dangerous because we're violent. We're powerful because we had to be. And that power could serve the galaxy, not threaten it. The aliens sat in shocked silence, finally beginning to grasp what they were dealing with. Humans weren't monsters from a hellish world. They were beings forged by hardship into something unprecedented. Natural survivors could thrive anywhere in the galaxy. The question was no longer whether humans were dangerous. The question was how the galaxy could benefit from their incredible abilities. The aliens were still staring at Han Solo when Dr. Park made her next announcement. What you've seen so far is just the beginning. Would you like to see what happens when we create a truly ideal environment for humans? Vethra looked nervous. What do you mean by ideal? Your standard galactic conditions, Dr. Park replied. Let's use your ship's environmental simulator to create the perfect world that most species would want to live on. The Krillian ambassador buzzed uncertainly. That seems dangerous. It's perfectly safe, Dr. Park assured them. We'll use the ship's safety protocols, but I think you need to see this to understand what humanity can offer the galaxy. After some discussion, the aliens agreed. They moved to the ship's main simulation chamber, a massive room that could recreate any environment. The walls shimmered and changed, creating a beautiful landscape with rolling hills, gentle streams, and perfect blue skies. 0.7 gravity, announced the ship's computer. Temperature, 22 degrees. Light, atmospheric pressure. No wind, no weather disturbances. Ji-Hoon Nam stepped forward. He was a young man with an athletic build, chosen for this mission because he represented average human physical ability. On Earth, he played sports and exercised regularly, but nothing that would make him special among humans. This is paradise, whispered the plant-like alien. Perfect conditions for life. Ji-Hoon smiled and stepped into the simulation. The moment his feet touched the artificial ground, something amazing happened. His normal walking pace became a series of graceful leaps. Each step carried him forward like he was flying. I feel like I could run forever, Ji-Hoon said, his voice filled with wonder. He started jogging, and his feet barely seemed to touch the ground. He moved across the landscape like a dancer, covering distances that would take the aliens several minutes in just seconds. The aliens watched in stunned silence as Ji-Hoon demonstrated what humans could do in their perfect conditions. He jumped over streams that would be impossible barriers for other species. He climbed hills that would require mechanical assistance for most aliens. Try jumping as high as you can, Dr. Park called out. Ji-Hoon crouched down and leaped upward. He soared 6 meters into the air, hanging in the low gravity for what seemed like forever before landing softly on his feet. The aliens gasped in amazement. On Earth, I can jump about 1 meter, Ji-Hoon explained. Here, I feel like I have superpowers. Young Mihan, the human doctor, was scanning the alien delegates with a medical device. May I share what I'm seeing? She asked. The aliens nodded, though they looked nervous about what she might reveal. Bone density is about 1/3 of human normal, young me explained. Your muscle mass is significantly lower. Your cardiovascular systems are designed for low-stress environments. She showed the medical readings on her tablet. In an emergency situation, most of you would need extensive life support systems. Humans would need basic equipment, at most. The Velhari leader looked uncomfortable. What do you mean by emergency? Situations? Anything that goes wrong, young me replied. Equipment failure, environmental changes, unexpected dangers. So your bodies are perfectly adapted to perfect conditions. What happens when conditions aren't perfect? Dr. Park activated another simulation. The perfect landscape changed to show a more challenging environment. The gravity remained the same, but now there were obstacles, rough terrain, and simulated equipment that needed to be moved. This represents a typical work environment where something has gone wrong, Dr. Park explained. Perhaps a mining operation where equipment has failed, or a research station that needs emergency repairs. Ji-hoon moved through the new environment with ease. He lifted heavy simulated equipment that would require teams of aliens to move. He climbed over obstacles that would stop most species entirely. He worked for 30 minutes without showing any signs of fatigue. Now, let me show you something else, Dr. Park said. She called up medical data on the holographic display. Human healing rates. The information that appeared shocked the aliens. A broken bone heals in 6 to 8 weeks, Dr. Park explained. Cuts and bruises disappear in days. Our immune systems fight off diseases that would kill most species. How is this possible? Asked the jellyfish-like alien. 'Cause our world tried to kill us every day, Dr. Park replied. We evolved to heal quickly because we had to. Every human has survived countless injuries that would be fatal to your species. Young me added more information. Human blood carries more oxygen than yours. Our hearts are stronger. Our lungs are more efficient. We can work in thin atmospheres where you would suffocate. She showed comparative data. Your species need climate control, artificial atmosphere, and careful environmental management. Humans can adapt to a wide range of conditions with minimal support. The demonstration continued with more tests. Ji-hoon showed how humans could work in hot and cold conditions that would disable the aliens. He demonstrated human endurance by running continuously for an hour without stopping, something that would be impossible for most galactic species. But the most important thing, Dr. Park said, is not what our bodies can do. It's how our minds work. She showed images of human cities with their complex transportation systems, massive buildings, and millions of people working together. We learn to solve problems under pressure. We learn to work together when everything goes wrong. We learn to stay calm in chaos. The plant-like alien spoke up. Your species thinks differently than ours. Yes, Dr. Park agreed. Most of you evolved in stable, predictable environments. You think in terms of maintaining balance and avoiding problems. Humans evolved in chaos. We think in terms of adapting to change and solving problems. She showed more examples. Human emergency responders working in disasters. Human engineers fixing broken systems. Human explorers venturing into dangerous places. We don't just survive in bad conditions. We thrive in them. The simulation changed one more time, showing a scenario that made the aliens visibly uncomfortable. It was a dangerous environment with multiple hazards, failing equipment, and time pressure to complete essential repairs. This is the kind of situation that would require evacuation for most species, Dr. Park explained. Okay, for humans, it's just a challenging day at work. Ji-hoon moved through the dangerous simulation with calm confidence. He repaired the equipment, avoided the hazards, and completed the mission while the aliens watched in amazement. Now, do you understand? Dr. Park asked. In your perfect conditions, humans don't just survive. We become extraordinary. We become exactly what the galaxy needs for the jobs that no one else can do. The aliens looked at each other with new understanding. The fear in their eyes was being replaced by something else entirely: hope. The aliens were still processing what they had seen when Dr. Park introduced the next member of their team. "Would like you to meet Kyung-Ho Shin. He works as an emergency responder on Earth." Kyung-Ho was a middle-aged man with calm eyes and steady hands. He wore a simple uniform and carried a small bag of equipment. Nothing about him seemed special, but Dr. Park smiled as she gestured for him to speak. "Hello," Kyung-Ho said with a slight bow. "I work in disaster response. When bad things happen, I help people." The Velhari leader looked curious. "What kind of disasters?" "The usual ones," Kyung-Ho replied casually. "Earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, building collapses, fires, chemical spills. Last week, one helped rescue people from a train that crashed during a storm." The aliens stared at him in horror. Acrylian ambassadors' clicking became rapid and panicked. "You work in such conditions regularly?" "Every day," Kyung-Ho said with a shrug. "That's my job. Yesterday, we had a magnitude 7 earthquake. 3 buildings fell down. We pulled 40 people out of the rubble." "And you consider this normal?" asked the plant-like alien, its voice creaking with stress. "Well, it was a pretty quiet day," Kyung-Ho admitted. "Usually, we have more calls." Dr. Park activated her tablet to show images of Kyung-Ho's work. The aliens saw humans working in conditions that would kill most species instantly. Burning buildings, flooded streets, collapsed structures, and dangerous chemicals everywhere. "This is what human emergency work looks like," Dr. Park explained. "These conditions would require full evacuation for your species. For humans, it's just Tuesday." The aliens watched as Kyung-Ho calmly described entering a burning building to rescue trapped people. He spoke about it the same way others might describe going to buy food. His voice never changed, his hands never shook, and his breathing stayed steady. "How do you stay so calm?" Vethera asked. "Panicking doesn't help anyone," Kyung-Ho replied. "When everything goes wrong, someone has to think clearly and solve problems. That's what we do." Dr. Park brought out Sojin Kong, a human engineer who had been quietly studying the ship's technical systems. Sojin was a young woman with quick eyes and steady hands. She had been taking notes throughout the meeting. "Sojin has been analyzing your ship's design," Dr. Park announced. "Would you like to share what you found?" Sojin stood up and activated her own tablet. "Your ship is beautiful and very advanced, but I noticed some things that worry me." The aliens looked offended. This was one of their finest vessels, built with the best technology in the galaxy. "What kind of things?" asked the Krillian engineer to Zikr. 17 potential failure points, Sojin said matter-of-factly. "Your power systems have no backup. Redundancy. Your life support systems would fail completely if the main computer goes down. Your hull plating is strong, but brittle. One small crack could spread and cause catastrophic failure." The aliens looked at each other nervously. "But these systems have worked perfectly for decades," Zikr protested. "'Cause nothing has ever gone wrong," Sojin replied. "Your technology is designed for perfect conditions. What happens when conditions aren't perfect?" She showed her analysis on the holographic display. "Your species build for the environments, stable, predictable, safe. Humans build for the environments we expect. Chaos, failure, and disaster." "Seems unnecessarily pessimistic," said the jellyfish-like alien. "It's realistic," Sojin corrected. "On Earth, we assume everything will break eventually. So we build things that can be fixed quickly, systems that have backups, and equipment that works even when damaged." As if summoned by her words, the ship's computer announced a simulated emergency. "Hull breach in Section 7. Immediate repair. Required to prevent life support failure." The alien crew members began to panic. Lights flashed, alarms sounded, and several species made distress calls in their native languages. The Krillian engineer started clicking so fast that the translator couldn't keep up. "This is a training scenario," Vethera announced quickly. But it represents the kind of emergency that would require evacuation to safety. "Would you like us to help?" Kyunko asked calmly. The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. Finally, Sikar nodded. "The repair requires working in a hazardous environment. High radiation, low oxygen, extreme temperature. Even with our best protective equipment, it would be dangerous." "Show us," Sojin said. They moved to the affected section of the ship. The corridor was filled with flashing red lights and warning sirens. The air was thin and cold, and radiation detectors were beeping constantly. The aliens needed full environmental suits just to enter the area. The humans put on basic protective gear and walked to the danger zone like they were entering a garden. Kyung-ho immediately began assessing the situation, while Sojin examined the damaged systems. "The breach is about 2 meters long," Kyung-ho reported. "Hull plating is cracked, but holding. We can seal it with emergency patches." "The power conduits are damaged," Sojin added, "but we can reroute around them. The whole repair should take about 30 minutes. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans worked. They moved with calm efficiency, talking to each other in normal voices, while radiation alarms screamed. Around them, the conditions that would kill most species were just another workplace for them. "How can you work so calmly?" Vethera asked through the communication system. "This isn't that bad," Kyung-ho replied, while welding a patch over the whole breach. "Last month, I had to fix a chemical plant during a hurricane. That was challenging. It's not to fight the environment," Sojin explained while rewiring. "Damaged systems. Accept that conditions are bad and work with what you have. Earth taught us that there's always a way to solve the problem." 25 minutes later, the repair was complete. The alarm stopped, the lights returned to normal, and the ship's systems were fully functional. The humans removed their basic protective gear and walked out of the hazardous zone as if nothing had happened. The aliens stared at them in stunned silence. Finally, Ambassador Kim spoke up. "Do you see now? We don't think of the universe as hostile. We think of it as challenging. When things go wrong, we don't panic or evacuate. We fix them." "Your species evolved in paradise," Dr. Park added. "You've learned to maintain perfect conditions. Our species evolved in hell. We learned to thrive in imperfect conditions." The aliens began to understand. Humans weren't dangerous because they were violent, They were powerful because they were prepared. Earth had trained them for every crisis the galaxy might face. "We've been looking at this wrong," Vethera said quietly. "We thought your Deathworld made you a threat, but it made you exactly what we need." The mood in the conference room had completely changed. Where before there had been fear and suspicion, now there was excitement and hope. The alien delegates whispered among themselves in their various languages, and the translators worked overtime to keep up with the conversations. Council member Vethera called for order. "The demonstrations have been ... enlightening, but before we proceed, there is something the Federation must share with you." She activated the holographic display, showing a map of the galaxy. Large sections were marked in red, with warning symbols flashing around them. "These are the void zones," Vethera explained. "Regions of space where environmental conditions are so extreme that Federation ships cannot safely operate. For 300 years, these areas have remained unexplored and unused." Ambassador Kim studied the map carefully. "What makes them so dangerous?" "High radiation levels, extreme gravity fields, toxic atmospheres, crushing atmospheric pressure, and temperatures that range from absolute zero to molten metal," replied Sikar the Krillian engineer. Any Federation vessel entering these zones would be destroyed within hours. Any crew member would die within minutes. Dr. Park looked at the data readings from the void zones and smiled. These readings, they're very similar to Earth conditions. Possible, said the plant-like alien. No world could be that hostile and still support life. You've seen our world's classification, Dr. Park reminded them. Class 12 Deathworld. These void zones are Class 8 to Class 10 environments. For humans, they would be challenging, but manageable. Young Mihan pulled up comparative data on her medical scanner. With basic protective equipment, humans could work in most of these zones for extended periods. Some of them we could handle with just breathing apparatus. The aliens looked at each other with growing excitement. Void zones contained entire star systems with valuable resources, scientific phenomena, and potentially habitable worlds. For centuries, they had been impossible to reach. There's more, Vithera continued. The Federation faces other challenges that require extreme environment specialists. She showed new images, deep space construction projects in high radiation zones, rescue operations on worlds with crushing gravity, scientific research in areas where temperatures would freeze most species solid. These projects have been delayed for decades because we cannot find crews capable of surviving the conditions, she explained. Traditional life support systems are too bulky and expensive for long-term operations. Si Jiang, the human scientist, studied the project data with interest. These don't look impossible. Difficult, yes, but not impossible. Or your species, perhaps, said the jellyfish-like alien. For us, they represent certain death. Ambassador Kim saw the opportunity that was forming. What exactly are you proposing? Thera straightened in her floating chair. The Federation would like to offer humanity a partnership. You would serve as our extreme environment specialists, taking on projects and missions that other species cannot handle. In return, you would gain access to Federation technology, trade networks, and scientific knowledge. Dr. Park felt her heart racing. This was beyond their wildest hopes for first contact. What kind of missions are we talking about? Survey expeditions to the void zones, Seeker replied. Deep space construction in hazardous environments, emergency rescue operations, scientific research in extreme conditions. Essentially, any mission where the environment would kill normal Federation crews. Sojin Kong raised her hand. Could we see the technical specifications for some of these projects? The aliens shared detailed plans for construction projects that have been considered impossible. Space stations in radiation fields, mining operations on high-gravity worlds, and research bases in areas where temperatures could melt steel. These are incredible opportunities, Sojin said, after studying the data. The engineering challenges alone would advance human technology by centuries. And the scientific research, Minsu added. Access to these unexplored regions could revolutionize our understanding of physics, biology, and astronomy. Kung Ho looked at the rescue operation protocols. The emergency response possibilities are interesting too. We could help save lives in situations where no one else can operate. Young Mi was examining the medical challenges. The experience of working in these environments would teach us so much about human adaptation. We could develop new medical techniques and technologies. The discussion continued for hours. The aliens presented challenge after challenge, and the humans responded with solutions and enthusiasm. Every impossible mission became an exciting opportunity. Every deadly environment became a workplace to be conquered. Finally, Vethera presented the formal proposal. The Federation offers humanity full membership with a specialized role. Earth would become the center for extreme environment operations. Human crews would be trained and equipped for missions throughout the galaxy. In return, she continued, humans would have access to all Federation knowledge, technology, and resources. Your people could study on any world, trade with any species, and explore the entire galaxy. Ambassador Kim felt the weight of history on his shoulders. This decision would shape humanity's future for generations to come. There is one condition, Vethra added. The galaxy must be certain that humans will use their abilities for protection and exploration, not conquest. We understand your concern, Kim replied, but you've seen what we are. We're not conquerors, we're survivors, builders, and helpers. When others face impossible situations, we find solutions. Dr. Park stood up. Earth's children have always been explorers, crossed dangerous oceans, climbed impossible mountains, and reached for the stars because we couldn't resist the challenge. Now you're offering us a galaxy full of challenges. How could we say no? The alien delegates voted unanimously to approve the partnership. The Terran Accords were signed that day, establishing humanity as the Federation's official extreme environment specialists. As the ceremony concluded, Vethra approached Ambassador Kim. We came to this meeting fearing that your species might destroy the galaxy. Instead, we discovered that you might be the key to unlocking its greatest secrets. Kim smiled. We never thought of ourselves as special. We just learned to live with what we had. That makes us useful to the galaxy. Then Earth's children are ready to serve. 6 months later, the first human crews departed for the void zones. They carried with them the hopes of 1,000 worlds and the strength forged in the crucible of humanity's Deathworld home. The galaxy was about to discover what humans could accomplish when they no longer had to fight their environment, but could use their unique abilities to help others. The age of human exploration had begun, and the universe would never be the same.